There is a world within our own that only a few people know of. A world to us that seems mystical, horrifying, and Lovecraftian. But to the denizens that call this world home, this is their normal. This world was birthed from a pataphysical meme that took hold of the collective noosphere of humanity and slowly warped, mutated, and dissected until this thing became its own. It became a living, breathing entity, and within itself it became a living, breathing world contained within something as real as just a bunch of pixels, but somehow just as real as you and I. An entity birthed, raised, and guided by a dedicated group. This group consisting of a few hundred, maybe thousands. This group is a collective. They both provide and are the Foundation. And for over 16 years, this creature of the internet, this parallel world born from the collective mind and souls of the dedicated few, has survived long enough that it can finally drive, and I don't know how much longer we can contain it. Today, we're diving into the world of one of my favorite things ever, the SCP Foundation. This online collaborative writing project has captured the imaginations of readers for over 15 years and is soon reaching its 9,000 series of anomalies. That's 10,000 different SCPs to make you laugh, make you cry, make you containment breach your pants. And that's before we even get into the different canons, timelines, and tales. I've literally been around since the original 4chan posts, which came out when I was in high school. So to say that the SCP Foundation was foundational, haha, to my life would be an understatement. So today, I'll be talking about the things that have influenced and formed the origins of the SCP Foundation, an overview of the immaculate depth and world building within the SCP Foundation universe is, its subtle, mimetic effect on larger pop culture, and what we as creatives can learn and potentially pass down to the next generation of Foundation overseers, site directors, MTFs, and even the D classes. But before we enter the true oldest house that is the SCP Foundation itself, let's take a step back and examine the broader context of the state of the internet and the perfect environmental settings that led to the single-celled organism that was the original 4chan post. So, internet horror, particularly in the form of creepypastas, have been a relatively new and unique, and for better or worse, fiercely influential force in the realm of modern scary storytelling. Creepypastas like the infamous Ben Drowned, a story about a haunted Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask cartridge, Ted the Caver about a caving expedition gone wrong, and the legendary Slender Man, all of which have left an indelible mark on online culture. Two of the three also started on 4chan now that I think about it. These stories were so jarring because at this point in internet history, yes, you knew people lied about stuff all the time, but the ability to use the power of both anonymity and the power of the fourth wall, two methods of storytelling which kind of cancel each other out at times, to coalesce into something that burrowed into your brain like those worms from Baldur's Gate 3. You're literally reading a story about a haunted video game cartridge, but something in your brain, probably where that worm is asking you, but what if it is real? Could it be real? I mean, I've blown a few cartridges in my lifetime. What if I was blowing on a ghost too? And it was from this fertile ground of internet horror that the SCP Foundation emerged. In 2007, on the X Paranormal board of 4chan, an anonymous user posted the very first SCP file, SCP-173, accompanied by an image of a sculpture by artist Izumi Kato. This post was the pebble that started the avalanche, inspiring countless others to contribute their own SCP entries, and building a shared universe of anomalous entities and the secret organization tasked with containing them. Like a cosmic game of Jenga where each new block added to the tower only made it more fascinating and precarious. As these stories took root in the collective consciousness, the SCP Foundation emerged as a natural evolution of this internet-fueled horror culture. The SCP SCP Foundation's premise, a clandestine organization dedicated to researching and containing anomalous phenomenon, is the perfect puzzle piece to fit into the internet's obsession with conspiracy theories and tales of secret societies. The SCP Foundation bridges the gap between the X-Files and the collective unconsciousness of the internet, tapping into that primal desire to believe in something bigger, stranger, and more terrifying than ourselves. In many ways, the SCP Foundation is a spiritual successor to shows like Warehouse 13, Men in Black the animated series, and the X-Files. Government agents that keep the weird, spooky, and spacey away from the general public. And in the case of Warehouse 13, they get a crossover with one of my favorite comfort shows ever, Eureka. But what sets the SCP Foundation, and the biggest reason I think it stood the test of time, is because of its collaborative community, its open source scaries, the Wikipedia for the weird, BitTorrents of big terror, if I may say so. This was a world by design that allowed anyone to contribute their own brand of nightmare fuel to the ever-growing archive of the uncanny. Somebody gonna match my freak indeed.
I've been a nasty girl, nasty. I've been a nasty girl, nasty. I've been a nasty girl.
And on top of all of this, because of its open-ended setting combined with a fairly consistent set of anchors between different canons, characters, and events, it puts the world of the SCP Foundation up there with Warhammer and Star Wars in terms of a perfect storytelling sandbox that allows you to tell any type of story that you want. Not only does the SCP Foundation draw heavy inspiration from horror and sci-fi, but also things like comedy, Weird West, fantasy, and mythology and folklore. Everything I know about fairy lore, I actually learned from SCP stories. That is also how I can remember that Steel-type Pokemon are strong against fairy Pokemon. Because war crimes. The SCP community has developed a submission and review process that lasts multiple rounds and revisions before it's granted the hollow designation of an SCP item number. While this initially feels like very blatant gatekeeping, I'd argue that it's more so keeping and maintaining a high level of quality and standard. If someone has a good enough idea and are a good enough writer, they can get an SCP listed in their very first try. The fact that there are some objectively terrible, objectively stupid, and objectively lame SCPs that you can read right now is proof that having high standards doesn't mean that every single entry is going to be a banger. As I said, they are approaching the 10,000th FCP entry. There's going to be a couple duds. Also, from everything I've seen and researched, bad/uninteresting articles can still get downvoted by the general SCP reader to the point that the article gets removed and a new one takes place. The Discord and the Wiki have a dedicated draft critique forum, which requires authors to have their idea greenlit before they may use them. The greenlighting policy exists to ensure that authors and reviewers develop solid drafts that don't need conceptual reworking during the writing phase. Greenlights are votes of confidence in story concept and an author's ability to internalize feedback before progressing to drafting. Once a story has been greenlit and goes live, if the page's rating drops to -10 or lower, it becomes eligible for deletion. And as I previously mentioned, while the approval process may seem rigorous and a bit demanding for simply posting a scary story online, but if you are wanting to get your writing chops and credits in an attempt to go professional, you are going to have to do similar stuff when working with publishers, managers, editors, and just corporations in general. Add in the fact that the Foundation is still going strong 16 years later, I would say that their approval process is an overall net good. The rigorous submission process and quality control measures are essential to the maintaining the SCP Foundation's high standards, but they also contribute to another iconic aspect of the project, the containment file format itself. But now that you understand how SCP, let us finally discuss why SCP. The most defining feature of the SCP Foundation is the tone and format of the containment files themselves. Hi there. YouTube game, gamers against weed here. I'm just kind of wanting to say that I think for me, I'm going to kind of probably talk about this a little bit later, but the contrast between the very dry clinical tones and just the abject horror of the SCP Foundation is something that I think just really sticks with you after you spend time in like a corporate job. I spent a little bit of time working at Amazon corporate in downtown Seattle many years ago, and I remember this one moment that like vividly sticks out in my mind. I was a vendor specialist, which meant that I worked with other brands to get stuff on the Amazon's platform. For example, one of the brands that I worked with was Motorola, not sponsored. And I would work with them to get stuff onto Amazon and also work with them to help make sure they're selling through inventory, getting the best profit margins, blah, blah, blah. And they were coming out with a new phone, and I had to help prep the launch, so to speak. So this meant that I had to do forecasts, pre-order units, set up the pages, all that stuff. But the thing that really kind of just weirded me out was setting up the order for the initial shipment of the launching phone. Multi-million-dollar purchase that I was about to put through, and it really bothered me seeing myself make a transaction like that large. It kind of the same feeling that I get when reading the SCP files is like seeing all these weird, crazy things happen, but just talking about it like it's just normal. Talking about spending millions of dollars every day like it's normal. Yes, it turns out that the real horror was capitalism the whole time. I mean, go figure. Also, that's why I love the Mystery Flesh Pit world building project too, because, that's exactly what would happen in America if we were to find out that the entire country was basically just an orifice for some giant humanoid. We'd find a way to make money off that. Most files are written in a heavily clinical and detached voice. One of the first chills that you get while reading an SCP file is realizing that the horrors, tortures, and deaths are described in a tone that is so mundane that it borders on boredom. The banality to the terrors unfolding before us, second only to the sterile, scientific language that precedes it. This cold, analytical tone is the secret ingredient that makes the horror hit that much harder. It's like a punch to the gut that you never see coming. It's the realization that to these people, all this death, destruction, and occasional fun adventures is all just a part of the job. It's normal to the Foundation employees. Like, this is their everyday, their normal reality. Like, for example, take this excerpt from SCP-6659. This is literally just the first sentence of the description of that object. SCP-6659 is a Foundation-designed eigenweapon developed for the neutralization of hostile deific entities. This device is composed of 3 interconnected systems, which function to destabilize a given deific entity's embodied memeplex within the noosphere, preventing their conceptualization and consequently worship. Now, to any other normie, this is just like a bunch of made-up sci-fi knowledge, but if you take the time to look past the purposefully dry scientific nomenclature, you will just see that in reality, SCP-6659 is basically just a gun specifically made to kill gods, which is beyond awesome in so many ways. To me personally, the horror lies in the juxtaposition of combining the mundane and the monstrous. It's a cognitive dissonance of adhering to the bureaucracy of corporate life in a world that is exclusively bizarre. That is why something as simple as a box of origami paper dragons can keep you up at night wondering if maybe, just maybe, there really is a secret organization out there watching us as we sleep, waiting for something to go bump in the night and containing things that bump us just a little bit too loudly. Now, one would think after a certain point you run out of weird, psychotic murder toys to write about, but my friend, you obviously have no idea how deep this rabbit hole goes. The SCP Foundation is more than just a one-trick pony. In this fictional rodeo of anomalous half-humans, half-bulls, where multiple writers competing for those 8 seconds needed for total victory. I don't know where I was going with that metaphor, but as with any omniscient group in any setting, real or otherwise, there are countless groups of interest to aid, oppose, or just stay out of the big guys in charge. The most common GOIs or groups of interest mirror international and national military and intelligence organizations. The Global Occult Coalition, GOC, are basically the UN's version of the Foundation, with the main difference being that their insistence to try and destroy anything anomalous that they find, as opposed to securing and containing like the Foundation does. Another commonly cited group of interest would also be the Chaos Insurgency. If you can understand the concept of a Space Marine contrasted with a Chaos Space Marine, or an Eldar contrasted with a Dark Eldar, then you get the gist of what they're going for. The Chaos Insurgency is trying to take down the Foundation by any means necessary, and by any means, I means any SCP that they can get their hands on. But a paramilitary group using Lovecraftian items to fight each other is kind of old hat in my opinion. It's been done before in real life. For more information, look up World War II. But where's all the regular people using Lovecraftian items to make toys, food, and art? Well, I'm so glad that you asked, past version of me. So first we have Dr. Wondertainment. Dr. Wondertainment, whether an individual or collective entity, is capable of producing anomalous artifacts and entities which thematically resemble children's toys. The nature of these objects and devices varies, although all were clearly intended to be utilized by children. In addition, Dr. Wondertainment is responsible for the creation of the Little Misters, anomalous humanoids altered for collectability. Easiest comparison would be the Little Misters and like Standabilities from JoJo's. And then there's Are We Cool Yet, a collective of anomalous artists or an artist. Members of Are We Cool Yet are capable of either obtaining or producing anomalous objects and entities and using them to create things like art installations. These installations are placed for maximum public exposure and have been fatal to bystanders. The phrase "Are we cool yet?" is always present in some sort of way. Think about basically a bunch of Rohan Kashibes all hanging out and doing weird Rohan Kashibe art stuff and then unleashing it on the public. And my last example would be Ambrose Restaurants. Ambrose Restaurants is a large-scale chain of fine dining eateries located in various public locations across Earth, along with several locations in anomalous or extra-dimensional locations of interest. These restaurants specialize in anomalous food and culinary practices, and vary widely in variation and style. Despite the scale of the Ambrose Restaurants chain, they are generally non-hostile and will instead flee from threats directed towards them. So if you know the episode of Diamond is Unbreakable with the chef with the stand abilities that makes food that can like cure people and help people, yeah, same vibe. So I mean, basically, if you like JoJo's, you might at least get a kick out of some of the SCP Foundation stuff. Each of these GOI, along with an additional 42 different and unique groups, exist within the SCP universe, each with their own agenda and philosophy. And as you start getting into the SCP lore and mythos, you start seeing how the biggest players in this game operate behind the veil, like a shadowy chess game played across the backdrop of a living, breathing, but uncaring universe. These opposing factions add depth and nuance to the SCP mythos, like layers of an ogre that only get more pungent and complex the deeper you go and the more that you peel away and consume. And not only do these GOI operate with multiple timelines and dimensions, they also exist across different canons as well. One thing that you commonly hear amongst the SCP community is that there is no canon. But to quote the official SCP Canon Hub, the idea that there is no canon is a bit silly at times. Is not that we don't have any, is that we have a multitude which touch, cross, and dip into each other. It's up to you as the reader to decide what you believe and what you embrace as the heart of the universe. And I think that there's something weirdly nice and comforting and accepting about that. Compared against the high bar required to be posted as an SCP, it's nice to know that the community actively encourages its readers to to just pick the parts they like, and that can be the part of the Foundation that they focus on and follow. For those who don't know, the canons, the branching paths of the SCP multiverse, are each different worlds or storylines that exist diagonally or tangentially from the prime SCP timeline. Each canon is a rabbit hole unto itself, leading to a wonderland of horror and wonder. The beauty of the SCP Foundation is just that it's not just one story, but an infinite number of stories. Imagine the holiday forest that Jack Skellington finds in The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now imagine Jack as the SCP reader, and each holiday tree being a portal to a different canon. They're all both lore and fan fiction at the same time. Schrodinger's SCP, so to speak. It feels so awesome to know that all these different settings can exist harmoniously, like a choose-your-own-adventure book written by H.P. Lovecraft, but instead of being afraid of minorities, he's afraid of space, sharks, and probably street sharks. There is even a canon where the SCP Foundation doesn't exist, and it was started by an SCP article that is a parody of All Things Considered, the NPR radio show. My friends, that is literally peak fiction. Before anyone asks, in regards to doing like an SCP movie or a TV show, I'm on the fence about it. I mean, yes, I would love to see something professionally made, but at the same time, I'm pretty happy with what we have. For me, if SCP were to go mainstream, just like with any other thing that went mainstream, a lot of the fun, a lot of the individuality of that project is going to be lost. I think that the fact that everything is just so fast and loose and barely tangentially connected would make it so you could make some really great one-shots and one-off tales and stuff like that, but I'm not really too keen on the idea, and the fact that SCP's Creative Commons anyways, I don't know what type of legal mess that would be. But yeah, I think that SCP staying in this weird kind of limbo state between being well-known and also obscure, I think that if anything, that gives it a very great fertile breeding ground for younger up-and-coming creatives, like I've said in this video. It allows people to make short films with a reference point, with something that they can adapt, learning how to adapt stories and stuff like that. It's within Creative Commons, so they don't have to worry about like any cease and desist coming on from like a fan film or something weird like that. And it feels like such a good starting step in regards to being a creative and finding some sort of, I guess, thing to kind of focus your art on, if that makes sense, in order to kind of build up that skill set, grow your skill set, or what have you. So yeah, long story short, I guess keep SCP independent, as corny and as gatekeepy as that sounds, but at the same time, it wouldn't be good if it gone mainstream. The SCP Foundation's influence on post-2008 horror, sci-fi, and Lovecraftian media is honestly undeniable. Let's look at some prime examples. So we first have Control from 2019 by Remedy Entertainment, and I would say that this is the perfect embodiment of SCP's ethos, where the Federal Bureau of Control feels like a direct descendant of the Foundation itself. It feels like the UIU, the Unusual Incidents Unit. The game's eerie atmosphere filled with objects of power and inexplicable anomalies is so steeped in SCP vibes that it's easy to imagine an SCP-001 proposal just lurking around the corner. Remedy didn't just make a game, they tapped into the SCP blueprint and ran wild with it. And yes, this is also me saying that they obviously went and had influence from the Foundation. I know. In the literary realm, Jeff Vandermeer's Southern Reach trilogy, which kicked off with Annihilation in 2014, might as well be an SCP fanfiction dressed up as a New York Times bestseller. Area X, with its reality-defying weirdness and the secretive government agency investigating it, are straight out of the SCP Foundation's playbook. Vandermeer's exploration of cosmic horror, environmental mysteries, and the unknown feels like it could seamlessly slot into the SCP universe as an ongoing case study, with each book serving as a redacted field report. Then there are movies like The Endless from 2017 and Pontypool from 2008. They are cinematic love letters to the SCP aesthetic, whether they know it or not. The Endless, with its looping time cult and creepy cosmic secrets, practically begs to be cataloged as a Keter class anomaly. Meanwhile, Pontypool's linguistic virus could easily be SCP-X, a memetic hazard locked up deep in Site-19, or it could be Skullface's plan to eliminate the English language in Metal Gear Solid 5. These films capture the SCP spirit by blending the mundane with the terrifying, turning the ordinary into extraordinary with just a twist of perception. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the SCP Foundation is how it's become a launching pad for countless careers in the creative arts. The Magnus Archives podcast is probably one of my favorite standout examples. They seamlessly weave episodic tales of horror that echo the SCP's blend of bureaucratic dread and supernatural mystery. Like SCPs, each episode feels like a classified document, unraveling the twisted logic of a world where the bizarre is just a paperwork mishap away from being your new reality. The SCP Foundation didn't just influence these stories, it helped birth a whole new genre of horror, one where the abnormal is cataloged, classified, and only sometimes contained. Of course, this surge of popularity has led to some controversy, particularly with the rise of SCP content aimed at younger audiences. Roblox SCP games and South Korea's SCP manhwa series for kids have sparked debates within the community. The concern is clear: SCP's dark, often mature themes aren't always suitable for younger readers. But at the same time, these younger fans are the future of the Foundation. They're the ones who will carry the torch, writing the next generation of tales that will continue to expand this world that we have all helped build. So as we move forward, we need to be mindful, guiding these young creators with kindness and understanding, ensuring that the world of SCP remains a place of inspiration and imagination for everyone, no matter their age. I think SCP has only gotten better with time because it's probably grown up with me. One thing I see quite a bit is that there are lots of people who prefer the older SCPs that are about spooky, scary skeletons and other imaginable horrors that came out of the imagination of the early writers. And when I did some mental math, I realized that those early writers are probably closer in age to me than they were to the age of your average current SCP reader. And I think that that's why the SCPs, the canons, the stories being told now have all evolved the way that they have over the past 16 years. And I think one of the most important and impressive ways it grew, especially from a project that started on 4chan, was the embracing and exploration of horror as a genre to explore queer experiences. One of the easiest themes to express and explore in horror is the sense of othering that a life can give us. The fear and uncomfort and insecurity that comes with letting yourself be vulnerable in a place that might be willing to kill you for it. The fear of being the only person of color in a room full of white people, the fear of having any type of femininity in the Marianas Trench that is modern masculinity. It is a fear of feeling like you are not who society says you are. That feeling of the person that you were told that you were from birth may not be your true self. I've seen people exclaim how SCP is woke now, but those people were obviously never fans of the genre of horror itself. Or if they claim they were, they somehow missed the point and potential of the genre this whole time. And I mean, if you really want to think about it, in a world and universe full of murder creatures, intersecting timelines, and multiple dimensions, why does someone's gender identity or sexual orientation matter? We're all human and we're all trying to survive in this anomalous world, and in the real world. So the SCP Foundation is not just an online collaborative writing project, it's a testament to the power of collective imagination. What began as a single eerie post on 4chan has blossomed into a sprawling multi-dimensional universe that defies conventional storytelling. It's a world where the boundaries between reality and fiction blur, and where the mundane and the monstrous coexist, and where every new entry is a small piece in an ever-expanding puzzle. At its core, the SCP Foundation taps into our innate curiosity and fear of the unknown. It is a space where anyone with a knack for storytelling and a love for the bizarre can contribute, shaping and reshaping the narrative in ways that are both terrifying and strangely beautiful at times. The Foundation's meticulous attention to detail, the clinical tone of the containment files, and the intricate web of canons and timelines, it all creates a sense of immersion that's really hard to find elsewhere. But what truly sets the SCP Foundation apart is its ability to evolve. Unlike traditional media where stories are often confined to the vision of a single creator, the SCP universe is a living, breathing entity that is constantly adapting to the contributions of its community itself. It's like its own real-life SCP. It's a place where horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and even comedy intersect, creating a rich tapestry of narratives that cater to every taste. Whether you're drawn to the cosmic horror of deific entities or the darkly humorous antics of Dr. Wondertainment, there's something for everyone within the Foundation's digital walls. In a way, the SCP Foundation is a mirror of the internet itself. Chaotic, unpredictable, and endlessly fascinating. It's a reminder that in the right hands, even the most outlandish ideas can take on a life of their own, becoming something far greater than the sum of their parts. And as we inch closer to that elusive 10,000th SCP, it's clear that the Foundation isn't just surviving, it is thriving, thanks to the dedication of its creators and the passion of its fans. So as we continue to explore this strange, wonderful world, let's remember that the SCP Foundation is more than just a collection of scary stories. It is a collaborative experiment in world building, a celebration of creativity, and a shining example of what can happen when a community comes together to tell stories that push the boundaries of imagination. If you're new to the world of SCP, there's never been a better time to get involved. Whether you're a writer, an artist, or simply a fan of all things strange and spooky, the SCP Foundation has something to offer. So take the plunge, explore the archives, and don't be afraid to add your own voice to the chorus. The future of horror is waiting for you, and it's all up to us to decide what shape it will take. If you have made it this far, that means that you have made it to the far end of the video, which means that you are at the conclusion of the video, which means that it is time for me to talk to you a little bit. This video, I feel like I could have gone so much more deeper into the minutia of the SCP universe. Honestly, that's something I kind of want to do, so if that's something that you want me to do, like as a side series or something, let me know. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Also, if this video kind of sparked an idea for something similar that you'd like me to talk about, leave a comment and let me know. Also, for the sake of engagement and the algorithm, leave me either your favorite SCP or the first SCP that you encountered. Maybe I will learn about a couple new SCPs that I hadn't seen before. So, yep, as always, do all the YouTubey things, like, share, subscribe, I see you, son. And, yeah, wait for the next video, I guess. I try to do a video about every 10 days, so keep that in mind. Alright, until next time, welcome to the Thunderdome that is being a father of four. Okay, bye.